Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I repaired the USB port, a loose USB port of this Samsung point and shoot camera. As you can see, while plugging in, there is no reaction from the camera. And now I switch it on, you see that it switches itself off because there is no battery at all. This camera belongs to my in-laws and they really liked it, so I'm going to now show you how I dismantled and got to repairing that USB port. So first, with my set of small screwdriver heads, I'm going to unscrew the small star screws. Now this video has been sped up twice. This is because it's cut short from over an hour. So after you're removing all the screws, using a small pry tool, a small piece of plastic, I'm going to open up the clips holding the cover of the camera, the body itself, just going slowly. Now, like I said before, the video has been sped up, twice actually. The original process was done very calmly and with a lot of patience. This is so that you don't end up breaking anything. So I found out after struggling a bit that I had to pull out the base and then the top comes off just like that. So lifting up the bottom part of the back of the cover of the camera, I'm able to use the same procedure to pull it out. So now I'm on the button pad and one screw removed there to get loose and release that button pad, which is held on by a flex cable. The top is inserted into some special frame, so you have to be careful about that. The LCD simply opens up like a door and it's held on by a flex cable. Now, I'm a DIYer and not a professional, so most of these procedures I'm taking may be reversed and some things may have to be done before the other, but I'm just showing you a video of exactly what I did in this case. So 3 screws hold this metal frame that protects the PVC component and you just maneuver it out. You can see we are getting close to the USB female, but there is still a lot of job to do. I unscrewed the screws holding that PCB board. I unplugged the Wi-Fi cable. And now I'm going to use a precision cutting knife or sharp instrument to open up the clips holding the flex cables. You have to use something that is as slim as possible to be able to get under these very small parts. So flex cable removed for the LCD and we can keep that aside. Flex cable for the buttons, the shutter buttons and other stuff removed. And what's left now are the flex cable to the button pad, the PCB holding the pads, and the flex cables to the sensor itself and other mechanisms. Now this is where it gets very, very complicated. That is the sensor behind that black circle there and other sensitive stuff, so I'm going to just use a lot of care to open up those shutter doors and try to pull off the PCB from the flex cables of the sensor. I'm going to give a list of tools that I used, but it's basic hobby stuff. I'm not a professional, and so I use what I have. Now, the flex cable that holds the button pad to the main PCB is just to be pulled out. Okay, so now we are on the PCB, and you can see all that work was just to get to this USB location. So now I'm going to use my spectacle, that's my magnifier glass, to show you. You can see as I'm wiggling the USB port, there is some lift up from the pins at the back. So now it's time to reflow. We're going to flow back some solder into those broken pins, and it all starts with using flux. And I have my flux mixed and put into a nail polish bottle that enables me to apply with the brush very easily. My soldering iron is now hot enough, just under 300 degrees centigrade, and I'm going to start touching just to get the pins warm. I just touched a blob of solder, and now I'm going to use that to pass on the pins, just to spread the heat around and start getting those broken points fused once again. So now it's time to remove the excess solder, and I do this with a desoldering ribbon or cable. Just make sure that you don't pull away pins and other small components on this very tiny board. Continue to add flux as needed. And now I'm going to just continue to soak up some of the excess solder that I put in the first place on the pins. Okay, so now I'm starting to solder definitively the pins, and I'm pulling downwards in a parallel to the pins movement. This is to remove any bridges, blobs of solder that are touching two pins at the same time, and clean up the work. So just brought up now the PCB to the camera to show, and you can see it's just a very clean work. Now you don't need to spend much time on this, because the pins are so small that with adequate amount of heat, the solder reflows and the pins get fused again to the pads. So with some isopropyl alcohol and the Q-tip, the earbud tip, I just cleaned now the area around where I worked, which was full of flux. I'm going to leave a list of all the things I used and that you may need to do such work. So to prevent this from happening in the future, I'm going to solder down the frame of the USB port to the pads, and this is to give much more rigidity. It was so hard to get to the pins, to this location, that it's just better to settle down and do as good a job as you can to guarantee the future of the part. Not the most beautiful job, but it surely does put some more strength on that USB port itself. And it removes stress from the pins at the back. So just a quick control, again with my magnifying glass. You can see the job, the pins at the back are very well done. And While flexing, the pins no longer lift up from the pad. They are completely fused. More cleaning with isopropyl alcohol. You just want to do a job that will look presentable, even if you're not a professional. You want to make these things look as good as possible. Okay, so it's done. The moment of truth. We're going to start fixing back everything in a reverse order. The beauty about making this video for me was that I got lost and hanged on so many times, and I had to rewatch the video myself in certain sections to be able to know what goes where first. And this is one of the first times I did such a job without closing up the device and finding that I have one screw undone and not putting back into the device. So my advice to you is, if you're not used to doing jobs like this, just put the camera, your phone camera, above and record the steps. I'm putting back the flexible cable from the sensor and other components into the PCB once again. And just take your time and be relaxed. Don't force anything. I had to use 2 fingers to push back the trapdoor that holds the flex cable into the connector, because it was just so flimsy that I felt if I pushed on one side of it, then it might break in the middle. So usually on these flex cables, there are some lines that should align just outside of the small trapdoor, and make sure that it's as straight as possible to have a good connection inside the connector. So our board is seated back in its place, and now I'm going to plug back the Wi-Fi antenna. And another flex cable goes into its connector. Here I'm using pins, what can I say? I don't know the name of this, it eludes me the name of this tool, but you know what I'm talking about, just to pull in the connector flaps on the side, the wings, into the connector itself. The wings on the side of the flex cable should be tightly positioned beside the trapdoor. That's what lets you know that everything is well connected inside. So back to screwing some of the screws back into where they are supposed to be. The benefit of having this set of screw heads is that they just do the job correctly and professionally. With the magnetic tip, you're able to hold on to these small screws. So now the metal frame goes back into the center of the camera. Don't force anything, just with calmness and a gentle hand, get things set back in place without pushing or forcing too much. So now I'm putting back the flex cable of the LCD screen. I'm not sure if it's an LCD screen, but you know what I'm talking about now, the screen, the display of the camera. Flex cable back in, and now I'm going to shut that trapdoor that locks in the cable in place. So you can see my screws are always placed together in a group depending on where I remove them from, and this is to enable me, I don't mix my screws. This is to enable me have exactly the types of screws that go all together in one place, and it's a good habit to keep. At this time I'm feeling much more relieved because we've passed the summit of the mountain and we are now sliding down towards the base again. But still on my mind I know that the ultimate test is not done, and until I plug back in the cable and I have a charging red LED light, the job is not successful. So you can see that is one screw that I inserted before I needed to, and the mistakes I made, since this is the first time I ever did such a job. But like I said with the video, rewatching the video again was very instrumental to me getting things replaced correctly. So now we are at a good time. I can put the battery in and test before I fully close back the camera with the plastic covers, and crossing fingers to see. I switch it on and there is still some power in the battery, but after some time that camera switches itself off. If you look here, I'm on the official Samsung manual page and it says that I should have a red LED light to indicate charging and success. So I wasn't incredibly happy with this result. You can see wiggling the cable around, the contacts are fully connected to the pads, and the stress is being taken up by the frame of the USB port. So now it's written on the display screen that it's in PC connection mode, and you can see the light flashing. But it doesn't switch off. And that is to show that it was actually charging. So now to put back the body, my camera died, the battery to my camera died just before I started putting it back, but please just bear with me and I'm going to show in the next scene here. Okay, here now, you just simply do it in the reverse. You put back the base and you press in the clips, you put the front cover, you press them in, and then you screw back the screws. So just to confirm that I have a solid red LED light for charging indication, success. So here is the next day. I charged it all night, and I'm going to show you now that you can see the battery indicator is full. I'm able to take a picture even with full flash, and it was a job well done. I'm very happy about this. I hope this video helps you. Now with a reflection of myself on the screen, I bid you bye bye.